today on December 13th, 2018 at 4:30 p.m. in order to give royal assent to certain bills. Most sincerely, the Secretary to the Governor General, Mr. Lorenzo.
Declaration de députés.
Statements by members.
The Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you may know, a couple of weeks ago I celebrated my 30th anniversary of my first election to this committee. Now, mind you, I've been thrown in, I've been thrown out, I've been recycled, I've changed parties a few times, but I've had an incredible experience in this chamber, and to think that this is the last day is really hard to take. My first seat was over here. My seatmate was Kim Campbell. She ended up being one of my 6 prime ministers that I've served under. I've sat over there. I've sat in the seat of a member from Sandwich Gulf Islands. I've sat everywhere. There's not a bad seat in this House, Mr. Speaker. My last seat, when I was independent, I sat directly between the NDP and the Liberals in the very back row, and I got to know the very distinguished member from Papineau. And that resulted in me sitting in this seat. But I just have to say, I've seen members of Parliament from all parties do great things in this chamber. And I'm very proud to be part of all of that. And so no doubt I will not be back in this chamber again. So I would just like to say thank you very much for the experience. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a good one.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the citizens of Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles gave me the opportunity to represent them in this House. Almost every day, I rise on behalf of the 95,000 citizens of my riding to question the government or to vote, as Richard Marceau, Daniel Petit, and Anne-Marie Day did before me. For more than 100 years, men and women from across Canada, from different political stripes, have spent long hours in this place to make the voices of millions of Canadians heard. There were votes that led us to the First and Second World Wars, votes that concluded major free trade treaties, and so on. Yes, this room is only a building, but this building has a soul. It's the soul of the great Canadians who have marked Canadian history. I feel humbled and honored to be the latest in a long line of members for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles who've each represented our citizens in their own way. For this last statement in the building, I would like to strongly reaffirm my gratitude and respect for this institution, the House of Commons, and I look forward to speaking on behalf of Canadians in the new House very soon, particularly the citizens of Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's with honour that I rise today for one of my last member statements in this House. Last November, a company in my riding called EMD Construction Bâtiment received 2 awards at the most recent edition of the prestigious USA and America's Property Awards. This award is linked to the prestigious International Property Awards, which recognize the best real estate projects in terms of architecture, design, and successful property management all around the world. EMD Construction Bâtiment won the award for the Best Canadian Residential Development for the Chartwell-L'Envol project in Cap-Rouge in the Quebec City region. They are the first developers in Canada to receive the prestigious award for a retirement residence project. And they're from my riding, and I'm very proud of them. So congratulations to the entire EMD Construction team. It's a very dynamic company. And I also want to take this opportunity to wish all of my colleagues in this House, as well as people listening at home, Merry Christmas and a very happy New Year to all of you. I wish you peace, good health, and good time with your loved ones. The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, the holidays are approaching and there are many people waiting for a present from the Prime Minister. They would like him to finally announce a by-election in Outremont. In October, the Prime Minister decided that over 300,000 Canadians, including the citizens of Outremont, didn't need to have a voice in Parliament. Mr. Speaker, everyone has the right to be represented in Parliament. In Outremont, we have an exceptional candidate and a personal friend of mine. She is an extraordinary woman, and I know that she is committed to working internationally, and she's also committed to environmental issues. Knowing how much work she's done on these files, I know that she will do an excellent job representing the constituents of Outremont and defending their interests. The Prime Minister should give a present to people in Outremont and announce the by-election so that Ms. Sanchez can join the NDP caucus in Ottawa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, it's an absolute pleasure for me to rise on our last day in Centre Block to make a statement. On behalf of the Latin American community in my riding of Davenport and right across the country, I'd like to put a spotlight on the continuing deterioration of the state of affairs in Venezuela. Almost 3 million Venezuelans have fled to surrounding countries, causing one of the largest migrations in the history of Latin America and putting enormous strain on local services in countries such as Peru, Colombia, Brazil, Chile, Mexico, and Argentina. There is a humanitarian crisis where millions of Venezuelans do not have access to food, to medicines, and other basic life necessities. And then there's the human rights abuses, the extrajudicial killings, the violent crackdowns on protesters, activists, and journalists. Canada has condemned the role of the current regime in the ongoing political and economic crisis, impose economic sanctions on officials, and we are one of the first countries in the Americas to denounce the human rights situation. And we will continue to be vigilant to what is happening in Venezuela. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
The Yazidi community is currently observing the 3-day fast of December. Fasting is occurring from dawn until sunset, and in the evening, family and friends hold feast and engage in prayer. This is the time when Yazidis connect with the divine, celebrate blessings, and pray for peace. Tomorrow, Yazidis will hold the Feast of Azid. And who knows, Mr. Speaker, when we next meet in here 10 years hence, maybe we'll have seen Canada's first Yazidi Member of Parliament. The resiliency of this community and of their traditions is nothing short of a miracle. When evil tried to stamp out this people, they have persevered. Despite so many threats to their existence, Yazidis continue to celebrate their respect for peace and universal well-being for all of humanity. I would like to say to all Yazidis, on behalf of all of us in this place, Iza wa Piroje Be, and to all Canadians, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, peace, and good health.
The honourable member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to shed light on a medical condition that affects over 800,000 Canadians. Myalgic encephalomyelitis, commonly referred to as chronic fatigue syndrome, and fibromyalgia, or ME/FM, are debilitating physical conditions that can severely limit a person's ability to carry out ordinary daily activities. But unlike other conditions, those suffering with very real physical symptoms, including incapacitating pain, are frequently stigmatized, told that it's in their head, and denied basic supports that others with disabilities are entitled to. Poverty and social isolation often follow. Global research on the causes, diagnostics, and possible treatment of this condition are nearing potential breakthroughs, and yet there is no funding or research here in Canada. I want to thank my constituent, Margaret Parler, and the National ME/FM Advocacy Network for their tireless advocacy to raise awareness on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Family, faith, traditions, time spent amongst friends, togetherness, and celebrating the gift of life. Mr. Speaker, these are aspects that we all cherish during the holiday season. I feel so blessed to have amazing colleagues on all sides of the House representing this beautiful country and the hardworking Canadians from coast to coast to coast. C'est un honneur.
It's an honor for me to serve all Canadians. During the holiday season, let's take some time to reflect on what we've accomplished this year and to show our love to the people around us.
The spirit of giving, Mr. Speaker, and always look out for opportunities to help those less fortunate in our society. Mr. Speaker, from my family and I, warm wishes to everyone here and all Canadians for a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Joyeux Noël.
Merry Christmas to one and all.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has now voted down motions to study what the impact that the GM plant closure in Oshawa would have on the Canadian automotive industry and the economy, not once, not twice, but 3 times. First, at the Industry Committee, the Liberals failed us. Then, at the International Trade Committee, the Liberals failed us again. And finally, yesterday, in this House, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals failed Canadians by not supporting our motion calling for the Industry Committee to study the closure with stakeholders as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, I've asked repeatedly in this House when the Prime Minister will release his plan to help the affected workers. Again, nothing. Now, you can understand the confusion among Canadians when the Prime Minister says he wants to work to find a solution, and yet the Liberals won't let parliamentarians take action to keep jobs in Oshawa and Canada, work with stakeholders, and provide recommendations to the government. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals continue to fail the people of Oshawa and all Canadians.
For sure. The honourable member for St. John Rothsay.
Mr. Speaker, the holiday season is a time to reflect upon the year that has passed and give a hand to those most in need in our communities. So today I rise to reflect upon two ways our government is giving a hand to those most in need in St. John Rothsay. This fall, I was thrilled to make an announcement 3 years in the making. Nearly $2.7 million in federal funding for St. John Human Development Council's UYes project. This funding will give 183 at-risk youth in our community the opportunity to acquire the job skills they need to find gainful employment. I'm also thrilled to announce over 7,000 families in St. John Rothsay are benefiting from an average Canada Child payment of $670 a month. These investments in progressive social programs will help lift thousands of my constituents out of poverty and ensure that more families in my community have roofs over their heads and foods on their tables every passing Christmas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done, the honourable member for Calgary Central.
I have some good news to share with everyone. Because of our national housing strategy, kids with disabilities are finding places to live in their community to build their lives. As you're aware, 1 in 7 Canadians has a disability, but many of these are Canadian kids who are growing up in hospital because they don't have the supports they need. We are dealing with that, Mr. Speaker. In fact, at Horizon Housing's Glenmorgan project in Calgary, there is a supportive living area that allows these kids to grow up in a home environment with the nursing care and support that they need. Clearly, this is some good news for the holiday season. Kids with disabilities being able to build their life outside of a hospital. I am certain everyone will agree this is a game changer for kids with disabilities in this country. I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The session's coming to an end. It's 2018, but even today, thousands of Canadians do not have access to broadband internet service. The CRTC said in 2016 that broadband internet access is essential to Canada's economic, social, democratic, and cultural fabric. All Canadians must have access to high-speed internet. The Auditor General reported in 2016 that this government had launched Connect to Innovate, a program to expand internet coverage. But oops, they forgot to start the program. So once again, they've wasted taxpayers' money. People in the regions should have the same rights as those living in urban centres. So, this holiday season, I'd like to ask the government to commit to provide high-speed internet to the citizens of the regions. We're no longer living in the time of green acres, Mr. Speaker. Our regions deserve better. In closing, I'd like to offer my best wishes for happiness and health to all the citizens of the most beautiful riding in Canada, Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. We'll see each other in 2019. The honourable member for Orleans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With this time, this magnificent place counting down from months to weeks to days to now hours, I want to take this moment to thank the residents of Orleans for entrusting me to be their voice in the Hill. I also most especially want to thank those who serve our country both in and out of uniform, and your staff, Mr. Speaker, the clerks, the pages, the translators, the RCMP, Parliamentary Protective Services, people who work in the restaurant, those who make our lives so much easier and are focused on getting the job done. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, let's continue to embody the values that reflect what it means to be Canadian. And let's show generosity and goodwill to our fellow citizens, our visitors from around the world.
Both sides of the aisle. With that, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and best wishes for a great New Year. Thank you.
The honourable member for New Westminster, Burnaby.
Mr. Speaker, over this holiday season, Jagmeet Singh will be knocking on doors throughout Burnaby South. I hope the Prime Minister will stop playing games with the by-elections and allow voters to choose their representatives. Jagmeet Singh has a very compelling family story. He had to make his own way in the world and took care of his family when his father fell ill. Because of his experiences at a time of record inequality and a profound family debt crisis, Jagmeet Singh believes in investing in people, in families, and communities. He represents a change from the same old story we see in Ottawa. Jagmeet Singh has shown courage throughout his life. He grew up facing racism and turned that challenge into strength and compassion. He fundamentally believes that we need to build a better Canada, a Canada where everybody matters and where no one is left behind. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to the day when voters can choose to have Jagmeet Singh speak up on behalf of Burnaby South and all Canadians here in Ottawa on the floor of the House of Commons.
Order. The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the opioid crisis in Canada is killing more people than homicide, suicide, and traffic accidents combined. The statistics are alarming. 8,000 Canadians have died from this crisis, and 11 Canadians are dying each day. At the Take Note debate on Monday evening, my colleague from Barrie Springwater, Oro Medante, spoke about the tragic impact the opioid crisis is having on our city of Barrie, Ontario. He spoke about the 38 deaths in 2017 alone, 38 lives that have been lost, families that have been decimated, and our community is reeling trying to solve this crisis. It's all hands on deck. Unbelievably, during the debate, Mr. Speaker, while a member was referring to the 38 deaths, a microphone clearly picked up the Liberal government House Leader saying, quote, "Oh, that's it? That's not so bad, is it?" One death in this national crisis is too many, Mr. Speaker, and for the Liberal government House Leader to dismiss the deaths of 38 people in Barrie as, "Oh, that's it, that's not so bad," is unacceptable, repugnant, and morally reprehensible.
The honourable member for Hull Aylmer. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It was August 15th, 1988, that I came to Ottawa to become a parliamentary page. I had the privilege of setting foot on the green carpet of the House of Commons. At that time, I didn't know that 27 years later I would have the privilege of representing my constituents in the House of Commons as the member for Hull Aylmer. But Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that from a very early age I was a real political nerd. I was addicted to Hansard at the age of 15. I mean, who does that?
I was reading the great debates that were happening in the House, and I got to know these people who I never met, but I got to know them through Hansard, the Joe Clarks, the Nelson Reeses, the George Bakers, their wit and intelligence really coming through. And Mr. Speaker, aside from having the great privilege of being a page, what I will take from this chamber is a more emotional time that happened here, and that is when Maurice Bélanger took your chair, and a very emotional time. Mr. Speaker, we are not owners of this House. We are just but stewards. We are just passing through. Let's take care of it while they take care of this building over the next 10 years.
Well said. Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Crisis is heartbreaking and tragic. In the first half of this year, more than 2,000 Canadians died as a result of this epidemic. Opioid deaths affect Canadians of all backgrounds. Rich, poor, people from rural or urban areas, all are affected. This is a national crisis, and the government needs to take action immediately before the situation gets even worse. Does the government realize how urgent this situation is, and do they take the opioid crisis seriously?
Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, we are in a national public health crisis when it comes to the opioid epidemic, and our government is taking it extremely seriously. We are treating this as a public health issue and not a criminal one. Unlike the Harper Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, we have restored harm reduction as a key pillar in our strategy. We believe in supervised consumption sites and overdose prevention sites because we recognize they save lives. We continue to work with provinces and territories, and we will do all that we can to turn this tide on this national public health crisis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Earlier this week, when we were debating about the crisis, we heard some heart-wrenching stories of lives lost, including the loss of 38 lives in Barrie, Ontario. And unbelievably, when the Liberals responded to hearing of these 38 deaths, the Liberal House Leader could be hearing saying, and I quote, "Oh, that's it? That's not so bad, is it?" Mr. Speaker, these heartless and cruel comments are incredibly hurtful to the thousands who have suffered because of this crisis. Why in the world would the Liberal House Leader say this, and will she stand in this House and apologize?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious issue for myself. It is for my community. I know it is for all members across this place. I will tell you that my comments were not intended to diminish the seriousness of this. In Waterloo Region, we have seen 85 people lose their lives. Mr. Speaker, on this issue, if I've offended anyone, I can promise you I have no problem apologizing. I apologize. Thank you.
Well, the Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I do thank the House Leader for that apology, but unfortunately it can't erase the damage and the hurt that has been done. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. The Honourable Opposition House Leader has the floor. Order.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of families have suffered greatly as a result of this crisis, and cruel comments like those only make things worse, and they cannot undo the damage done. So the question for the House Leader is this: how could she say that? What did she mean by those comments? And is this the way the Liberal cabinet talks about this crisis when the doors are closed and they think that nobody's listening?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it was a very serious debate that we had on Monday. We had members from both sides ask for an emergency debate. It was denied. We worked together, all parties, to ensure that members could put themselves on the record. This is a very serious issue. I was part of that debate, and I too shared a story. It impacts my community like it impacts every community across this country. It is a national crisis. We do need to do more, and I can assure you that's what we're doing. As I have said to the member, and I will say to all members in this place and anyone that took my comments to be intended for something they weren't, I apologize. Thank you.
The order, please. Order. The honourable member for Lévis-les-Botinières. Mr. Speaker, Monday night, after giving a moving speech on the opioid crisis, the member for Barrie told us that 38 people have died in Barrie unfairly, affecting their families and loved ones, leaving them in mourning because of this crisis. The Leader of the government in the House then said, "Oh, that's all. That's not so bad, isn't it? That's outrageous." So allow me to describe this remark as being completely unacceptable. Can the Government House Leader explain why she said this? The Honourable Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, we are dealing with an opioid public health crisis. The government is working hard with its partners at the provincial, territorial, and municipal level. Since 2018, we've invested over $230 million. We want Canadians to know that we have resources on the ground. There are services available to those who need them. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Lévis-les-Botinières. Mr. Speaker, a single death is one too many. The Government House Leader showed a complete lack of compassion. The opioid crisis is serious. Does she understand the scope of it and its tragic consequences for the families of the 38 people who died? Mr. Speaker, will the Government House Leader revisit her words and explain why she does not think that these 38 deaths are a serious matter? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Again, we are extremely concerned by the opioid crisis. It's a public health crisis. Our government is seeing this as a public health issue and not a criminal issue. We're working with the provinces and territories to put resources on the ground where they are needed. We'll keep on monitoring this situation closely and work with all of our partners. The numbers that we've seen this week are not only numbers, they're people, moms, dads, children. We're all concerned about this crisis. The honourable member.
Believe that the contract given by Via Rail to a German company to build trains in the U.S. is the best thing that can happen. We can feel a collective facepalm from Canadians. They know it makes no sense. They know that Liberals lie down when it comes the time to protect Canadian jobs. The U.S. demands that at least 65% of the work of a public transportation tender has to be local and that final assembly has to be done on its territory. China has similar provisions. Liberals could have given Bombardier the possibility of a final offer, and they refused to do it. Why don't they care about protecting Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I've answered this question many times, so I'll approach it differently. People taking new trains within the Quebec City Windsor corridor will benefit from improved comfort, enhanced accessibility, better safety, and cleaner travel. On top of this, with today's deal, Siemens aims to provide Canadian content of more than 20% in supplies and services. The NDP says one thing in this House, but behind closed doors, they admit that our trade deals work for Canadians.
The honourable member. When I hear the minister should go to La Pocatière and speak directly to Bombardier workers. The United States requires local content guarantees for public transit tenders. It is the same with China, but here he's telling us that there's nothing the government can do because we're bound by our trade agreements. That's ridiculous. Quebec Liberal MPs have no influence. The United States require a minimum threshold of 65% of local content and that the final assembly be carried out on U.S. soil. So why do Liberals back down every time they should be defending Canadians? It's very clear that the NDP does not understand anything at all about what a free trade agreement is. And speaking of Bombardier, well, let's talk about the Azure $500 million contract, which was given to the La Pocatière plant. Why doesn't the NDP mention that we spent $154 million for Via at La Pocatière, and there are contracts given to Montreal and Gaspésie. There are contracts for Quebec. The NDP never mentions those contracts. Order. I would ask the honourable member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert not to shout when others are speaking, or not to, that is, not to shout at all in this chamber. The honourable member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, 2 years after the Panama Papers scandal, the Liberals still haven't gone after tax avoiders internationally. If you earn $35,000 a year and you owe the government $2,200, they'll come after you. But if you hide money in tax havens, the CRA can't do a thing. The minister can say that her plan is working, but in the last 3 years, she has nothing to show for it. No convictions, no money has been collected for international tax evasion. Why are the Liberals letting the rich get off the hook so easily? The Honourable Minister of Revenue. Mr. Speaker, the report from the Public Service of Canada shows that cuts made under the Harper government have had devastating impacts, with our investments of over $1 billion in the fight against tax evasion. Our government has given the agency the necessary resources, and under our leadership, we have hired 1,300 new tax auditors, and in 3 years, we have conducted 10 times more audits than occurred in 10 years under the Harper government. Our plan is working, and we're starting to see the results.
The honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby.
What rubbish. No charges have been laid, Mr. Speaker. When regular people claim something on their taxes, they're given only 90 days to prove that it's a legal claim. It's been 2 years since the Panama Papers revealed that many of the richest people in Canada have been stashing billions of dollars in illegal offshore tax havens, and still not a single charge has been laid. That's like playing Monopoly, where the richest always get a get-out-of-jail-free card. This Christmas, instead of going after everyday people all the time, why doesn't the Prime Minister tell his minister to go after illegal offshore tax havens for a change?
Madame Ministre du Revenu National.
Mr. Speaker, in our last three budgets, we have invested over $1 billion to give the Canada Revenue Agency the tools it needs to go after tax cheats. Now, with regard to the Panama Papers, the agency has identified over 3,000 foreign entities linked with over 2,600 beneficial owners who have connections with Canada. There have been audits into 80% of these cases, and we have also brought forth the voluntary disclosure program. We are getting close to our targets.
Westminster.
Order. I'd like to remind the member for Burnaby Westminster that after asking a question, he should listen. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if they are getting closer, but it seems that gaps are growing. 2 days ago, the Parliamentary Budget Officer sounded the alarm again because our deficit will hit $30 billion next year. The Liberals were elected 3 years ago, promising that in 2019 there would be no deficit. A year ago, it was going to be $10 billion. This week, $20 million. But now it looks like it'll be $30 billion. The Liberals have completely lost control of our public finances. So, simple question. When will they balance the budget? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for Louis Saint Laurent to give us the opportunity to answer one more time in this chamber before the centre block closes. My colleague for Louis Saint Laurent is an amateur historian. He knows that since 2006, the Conservatives took the best ever fiscal situation of a new government, and they dilapidated all the surpluses the Liberal governments under Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien had left to them. Conservatives are all rhetoric and posturing. In 10 years, they had the worst economic record, and they have no lessons to give to the rest of us. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you to my colleague for Louis Hébert, but you don't need a history degree to know that in 3 years, Canada was the best country in the G7 to emerge from the recession. That was our Conservative legacy. The Liberals are spending like drunken soldiers. Spending is completely out of control. The deficit will spiral up to $30 billion. Last chance for the member of Louis Saint-Hébert to answer the question. Can you give us real answers? When is the government going to balance the budget? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, if you want to stay with the topic of history, the reason why Canada emerged well from the world economic crisis is in great part because the Liberals said no to Stephen Harper when he called on Canada's banking sector to be deregulated. The Conservatives added $150 billion to our debt, and in 2015 they left us in a state of technical recession. So it took the Liberals to clean up the Conservative mess. We have the strongest growth within the G7, 300,000 kids lifted out of poverty, and the best record on economic growth. Thank you. I would also ask the honourable member for Parneuf-Jacques-Cartier not to shout when another MP is speaking.
Richmond Hill.
But, Mr. Speaker, Canadians decided based on a promise that the Prime Minister made to balance the budget. And yesterday, the International Monetary Fund warned industrialized countries to fix the roof while the sun shines as the storm clouds quickly amass over the global economy. However, this Prime Minister is doing the opposite. He continues to spend money we don't have with reckless abandon, which will ultimately lead to severe cuts of critical service when we need them the most. When will the Prime Minister do the right thing, brace our economy for the storm, and balance the budget?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker,
no wonder now that she's on that side, she knows a thing or two about cutting services. Actually, it's their side that cut services to veterans, that cut pay specialists, that led to the Phoenix pay system. It's their side, Mr. Speaker, that sent checks to families of millionaires. That was their focus. Mr. Speaker, I understand that they tried to cut their way to prosperity. It failed, Mr. Speaker. We took a different approach that has been working for the last 3 years, and that works for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Thank you.
The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, I like history as well, and I can tell you that during the economic crisis, we were able to launch our economy again, save jobs. We had the best performance in the OECD. In 2015, the Prime Minister said very clearly that the budget would be balanced in 2019. Not only was that promise broken, but they have no date to return to a balanced budget. Since 1967, no government has been as irresponsible with public finances. So when will the government balance the budget? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, since 1946, no government has had a worse economic performance than Stephen Harper's government. I would invite the member to review his history. Worst exports in 60 years, worst job growth under the Conservatives because their approach failed. They focused on the rich, sent checks to families of millionaires. They increased the TFSA for the wealthy, and we chose a different approach, which is working and which is closing the income gap.
In the early 2000s, the Conservative government paid off $40 billion of debt because we foresaw the difficult times that were ahead in the global economy. By contrast, while the sun is shining in the global economy, this government is piling up record debt. And now Citibank has produced a report saying that Canada is flashing red warning lights with respect to government debt. We go into this storm ahead more exposed now than ever before. When will the budget be balanced?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I know something of the era that the gentleman was referring to. In 2006, the Conservative government inherited 9 consecutive Liberal surpluses. They inherited $100 billion in fiscal flexibility, and in less than 2 years, they blew it all. Through reckless fiscal policy, they eliminated all the surplus, and they put this country back into deficit again before, not because of, before there was a recession in 2008. The recession made it worse.
Order. We all know it will get very quiet here soon. Perhaps not soon enough. Member for Carleton.
I know, and that member was very upset because that was back in the era where he helped defeat his government by bungling his way into an RCMP investigation of the leak of income trust back. So, anyway, Mr. Speaker, in the first 2 years before the global economic crisis, the Conservative government paid off $40 billion of debt, which buffered us against the trouble which was ahead. So we came out of the global recession before everyone else and created 1 million jobs. Why are they piling up so much debt now? The
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, I note the honourable gentleman omits the outcome of the investigation, which was complete vindication, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives created the deficit before there was a recession. The recession made it worse, but they invented the deficit all by themselves, and they never balanced the books ever again. They added $150 billion in new debt. They put 216,000 more people on the unemployment rolls.
Order. If only it were Christmas carols.
The honourable member for Drummond. Order. Speaking of deficit, let's talk about the environmental deficit. Everyone knows that Canada is going to miss its greenhouse gas reduction targets by a wide margin. According to an IPCC report, if Canada wanted to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, well, Canada would have to double these reductions. The UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, had said so. We're running out of time. He says that if we don't act now, not only would it be immoral, but it would be suicidal. What are the Liberals waiting for? Will they stop spewing empty words and do something about climate change? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of the Environment.
It takes a threat posed by climate change seriously, and I'm even prouder to see that we're actually taking action to put our commitment during the last election campaign into reality. Mr. Speaker, we're putting a price on pollution that's going to bring emissions down and leave families better off. We're investing historically in Canada's public transit system. We'll have a significant emissions reduction. We are investing in green infrastructure, clean technology, and importantly, we are phasing out coal to get to a place where 90% of our electricity will be generated by renewable resources by 2030, 30 years ahead of time where the Conservatives plan to be.
Yep. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditors General and United Nations have expressed concern that Canada is in danger of missing our 2030 Paris target by a wide margin. So Canada is in no position to be asking others to act. Given weak greenhouse gas reduction targets and a growing number of provinces reneging on their measures, it's become evident the much-touted pan-Canadian framework is just a legal fiction. Instead of calling on other nations to act, will this government take concrete measures now to ensure Canada does our part?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member from Edmonton Strathcona for the question. I'd like to assure that our government is working with Canadians as we transition to a clean energy future. We have a very serious plan to do our work at home while we're taking a leadership role in the international stage. That plan includes phasing out coal and, as I mentioned before, getting to 90% of our electricity generation from renewable resources by 2030. We're also improving public transit. We're investing in energy efficiency, $56 million in my province of Nova Scotia alone. We are putting people to work in the green economy and bringing our emissions down at the same time.
Yes. The honourable member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, Air Force Captain Kimberly Fawcett deployed twice to Afghanistan. Now she's fighting these Liberals to pay for a prosthetic limb, a limb she lost in an accident that killed her infant son, Kieran. Captain Fawcett was carrying out her family care plan with the approval of her commanding officer. She defended our country in Afghanistan, but the Military and Veterans Affairs say they won't pay for her prosthesis. When will the Liberals do the right thing and cover the costs related to her injury, or...
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to thank Captain Fawcett for her for service to her country, and the hearts go out to the loss that he has suffered. We are committed to making sure that she gets the support that he needs, including for the prosthetic legs and other. Sorry, my apologies, but also due to the complexity of the decisions that were made some time ago. This file is complex. However, we will make sure that not only she has the right support, and we will work through that complexity to making sure we do right. Thank you.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to know that to learn that the minister is going to do something. Captain Kimberly Fawcett had to go to court to get justice. The Minister of Justice has been aware of this case for several months. Why did he wait for her to take her case to court?
Mr. Speaker, we're going to make sure that Captain Fawcett gets the support that she needs. But as I stated, this file was the decisions that were made at a time when the Harper government was in power had made this file extremely complex. I have spoken to members opposite about this, but we have committed to and we are working towards and making sure that she not only has the right support, we're going to work through the complexity of the file to making sure that she has the support that she needs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable order. The honourable member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, Kimberly Fawcett is a member of the Canadian Armed Forces in court fighting the Liberals for support for her prosthetic limbs as a veteran. I spoke to the Minister of National Defence about the Fawcett case this summer, but yesterday he told Global News he was just becoming aware of the matter. The Minister knows that's not true. It is not complex, Mr. Speaker. Do the right thing. Captain Fawcett did her duty for Canada. It's time for that minister to do his duty to her.
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I want to make it very clear. The question that I received was, I learning about the prosthetic leg. Yes, I learned about that yesterday. Obviously, we have been talking about this file for some time, Mr. Speaker, and have been working through this file before, Mr. Speaker, that the honourable member has mentioned it. But if he wants to turn partisan, Mr. Speaker, where was he and where was his leadership at a time when they were in government, when they could have done something about this, Mr. Speaker? We will get something done because that's what Captain Fawcett deserves.
Order. The honourable member for Durham. Order.
Mr. Speaker, I was not partisan when I reached out to the minister 4 months ago to resolve this case. We spoke about this in September, Mr. Speaker. He said he was seized with it. You know what else he said, Mr. Speaker? He stood with the Prime Minister and said he would never see a veteran go to court for their benefits. They're paying for the benefits of a murderer, Mr. Speaker, but they're hanging Captain Fawcett out to dry. Shame. When will the veterans in that caucus step up and fight for our military?
Order. The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Order.
Mr. Speaker, yes, we spoke to the member opposite over the summer, and in fact, even yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I reached out to the member to ask his help to reach out to Captain Fawcett so we can get more information. And I appreciate the support for that, Mr. Speaker. What concerning to me, Mr. Speaker, we have been working and trying to resolve this together. But if he wants to make this into a partisan issue, Mr. Speaker, then why did you, sorry, not you, Mr. Speaker, why did he not take action at a time when he had the authority to do so as Minister of Veterans Affairs, Mr. Speaker? We will get this done.
Order. The honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, the fact that Canada is asking for a 5-judge panel to fight a battle that the Nuu-chah-nulth nations have already won, rather than translate that win into meaningful benefits for them, renders words of reconciliation hollow. This is no way to treat their so-called most important relationship. Nuu-chah-nulth nations have a right to catch and sell fish in its own territories and are asking that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Justice to live up to their words of reconciliation. Will the Minister cease her efforts to have a 5-judge panel appointed for this appeal right now?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We certainly are working collaboratively with the Ahousaht Nations on the court decision in terms of working towards implementation of the decision of the court. I think the honourable member should know that the appeal of that decision actually is from the First Nations, not from the government. We are actually working collaboratively to address the issue. We will continue to do so and to ensure that we actually meet our obligations under the court decision.
Order.
The honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot. Mr. Speaker, Canada has resumed removals to Haiti despite the extreme violence raging there. In my riding and elsewhere in Quebec, members of this community are being removed even though Haiti is extremely dangerous. A moratorium on removals to Haiti should be called at once to avoid putting these people's lives in danger. This government should show some compassion and stop ignoring such violence. When is the minister going to call a moratorium on deportations to Haiti?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the government certainly shares the concern that has been expressed by the honourable member with respect to the situation in Haiti, which is flexible and fluid and subject to constant change. Obviously, the decision to remove someone from Canada to another country is never taken lightly. It is taken with due care and consideration and due process as well. And if the circumstances are not appropriate so that the removal can be done safely, then the removal will not be undertaken.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, CETA has been in effect for 1 year and has had an enormous impact on Canada, and specifically my home riding of New Brunswick Southwest. Can the Parliamentary Secretary of International Trade Diversification please update this House on how this agreement has benefited our seafood exporters? Thank you.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member from New Brunswick Southwest for her advocacy on behalf of fishers and seafood exporters. I'm happy to tell her that because of CETA, 96% of the EU tariffs on fish and seafood were eliminated, and the remaining 4% will be phased out over the coming years. The EU is Atlantic Canada's third largest market for fish and seafood, and thanks to CETA, Atlantic fish and seafood now has a significant competitive advantage in Europe compared to U.S. exports. For example, Mr. Speaker, according to Lobster Council of Canada, lobster exports grew by 345% to Spain.
Honourable member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear the Prime Minister doesn't understand the struggles of everyday Canadians.
Not at all.
More than 100,000 unemployed energy workers are struggling to pay their mortgages, heat their homes, and buy Christmas presents for their families. The Prime Minister's solution to this crisis? Empty words, higher taxes, and more unemployment.
Crazy.
Canadian energy workers don't want EI checks, they want paychecks.
Right.
They don't want handouts, they want jobs.
That's right.
Will this Prime Minister get these people back to work? Will he scrap his No Pipelines Bill C-69?
Amen.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we have and we will always stand with the energy sector and the Canadians who work in that sector. We have approved Enbridge Line 3, which will add more capacity to carry our oil to the U.S. We are moving forward on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion in the right way, responding to the issues that court has identified. We are supporting Keystone XL. All this being done at the same time, we support workers in time of need through EI benefits. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Mr. Speaker, Albertans want jobs, not handouts.
Exactly.
Isaac Lubicon of the Woodland Cree First Nation was in Ottawa this week, voicing his opposition to the Prime Minister's shipping ban. The Prime Minister's ban hamstrings Indigenous communities and is the only oil shipping moratorium in Canada. And it's just another example of liberal arrogance. The First Nations want this Prime Minister to stop his Liberals knows best approach. When will this Prime Minister get out of the way of the Indigenous people instead of supporting American oil interests and abandon his disastrous shipping ban?
Good question. Well, Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I think only a disconnected politician would call EI a handout. It's an earned benefit that workers have fought for to have. And we're proud of our record. 36,500 new jobs were created in the last month in Alberta. Net gain of 71,100 full-time jobs since 2015 in Alberta. Yes, we need to do more, and we will deliver more.
Order. The Honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, like leaders of hundreds of other Indigenous communities, the Blood Tribe Chief Roy Fox says most Treaty 7 chiefs, quote, strongly oppose Bill C-69 for its likely devastating impact on our ability to support our community members. A Guelph University professor says Bill C-69 quote, conflicts with the goals of timeliness and transparency, not to mention fairness, while the Pipeline Association says, quote, we expect timelines to be longer, and Martha Hall Finley says it will, quote, increase political influence. All the exact opposite of everything Liberals claim. So will they scrap their No More Pipelines Bill C-69 before it's too late?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize the diversity of opinion among Indigenous communities on how we develop and transport our resources. What we are trying to do is fix a system that was broken in 2012 when the previous government brought changes that gutted the environmental regulations, that destroyed the protection for water and fish, that took away the ability of Canadians to participate in the regulatory process. We are putting a better system in place that allows good projects to move forward in a quicker way.
Good job.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
When Abdul Alhi Hashi Farah was detained a year ago after illegally entering Canada from the United States, he confessed to being part of the notorious Somali outlaw gang and had an outstanding arrest warrant. In spite of this, the government allowed him to go free in our community and allowed him to claim he was fleeing persecution. He was recently arrested as a suspect in armed robberies that he allegedly committed after his release in Canada. Will the Prime Minister review and fix his failed screening processes?
The Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, everyone that comes into this country is subject to vigorous background screening. The information in this case was not available to the IRB when they made the decision, but the man in question has been in custody since June. He is currently being held pending in detention. That detention and removal will take place early in the new year.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals failed to protect workers' pensions and Canadian consumers. Under their watch, rich executives and American hedge fund owners have been profiting from Sears bankruptcy while Canadians are left behind. Sears workers and retirees are forced to fight in court to receive their hard-earned pensions. Now consumers are being told their warranties they purchased at Sears won't be delivered, but they have to pay for it. And if you refuse to pay, then you get a bad credit rating. This is wrong, and the government knows it. Why are the Liberals refusing to protect Canadian workers and consumers from greedy, rich corporations?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite for his question and his work with respects to issues not only at Sears but pensions more broadly. The member opposite full well knows when it comes to pensions, our government has taken a leadership role in advancing that issue. We've talked about supporting retirement security for Canadians. We've brought forward measures with respects to CPP by strengthening CPP. We've also expanded the wage earner protection program as well. And in the 2018 budget, we were very clear that we're going to provide a whole of government solution to deal with this issue, to learn from the lessons from Sears, to make sure that these lessons are not repeated going forward, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, today the Prime Minister is attending an event on gender equality and women's economic participation. Yet his unconstitutional bill, C-89, forced rural and suburban mail carriers back to work for less pay than their male counterparts. And this despite an arbiter's award for pay equity that continues to be ignored by Canada Post. The Prime Minister talks a good game.
Apparently there's a problem with the interpretation into French. Est-ce que ça fonctionne now? It works now into French? Okay. I'll ask the member for London Fanshawe to restart her question if she would.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the Prime Minister is attending an event on gender equality and women's economic participation. Yet his unconscionable bill, C-89, forced rural and suburban mail carriers back to work for less pay than their male counterparts. And this despite an arbiter's award for pay equity that continues to be ignored by Canada Post. The Prime Minister talks a good game, but actions speak louder than words. Back-to-work legislation forced postal workers back into inequality. What's so feminist about that?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, we did everything we could to support Canada Post and their members and the workers to get a deal. We appointed Federal Mediation Service at least a year before the talks ended. We appointed a special mediator. We reappointed a special mediator, Mr. Speaker. We moved forward with legislation. We have legislation that is fair and balanced, that takes into account the needs of the workers and the concerns they raise, as well as the financial sustainability of the corporation. Mr. Speaker, we look forward to the arbitrator's work. Thank you.
Member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, last election, the Liberals promised to treat scientists with respect, but last week,
scientists in the networks of centers of excellence found out about funding cuts in a newspaper article. The Stem Cell Network is working on cures for diabetes, blood cancers, and heart disease. Their funding runs out in 3 months, and they've been told that's it. They've been funded since 2001 for the last 17 years. How's telling scientists about funding cuts in a newspaper article treating them with respect?
The Minister of Science and Sport.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate my colleague in his new role and thank him for a question. Our government is committed to science, research, and evidence-based decision-making. That's why we've made the largest investment in research in Canadian history, $4 billion. This historic investment includes the creation of the New Frontiers Research Fund, which will support research that will accelerate the pace of discovery in health, quality of life, and economy. We will take no lessons from the Conservatives who cut scientists.
The honourable member for Caribou, Prince George. Order. 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 The Honourable Minister for Intergovernmental Affairs will please come to order. I know he's having a good time, but he should wait for, after the House adjourns for that. The Honourable Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, while approving the dumping of hundreds of millions of litres of raw sewage into our rivers and streams, the Minister of Environment seems intent on shuttering industry in my province. We know she's close to signing a caribou protection deal with the province of British Columbia without even consulting the mayors and regional districts. This deal will kill jobs and put families out of work. Hunter Mile House, Dawson Creek, Chatwin, Mackenzie, Prince George, Fraser Fort George, Terrace, Tumber Ridge, Vanderhoof, Hooscoopy, and Williams Lake. These mayors just want a seat at the table. Why is she ignoring them?
Why?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the Conservatives' newfound interest in nature and conservation after 10 years where they slashed budgets. The fact is, in our last federal budget, we had the largest single investment in nature and conservation in the history of our country. The threats facing the boreal and southern mountain caribou in British Columbia is a very serious problem that we need to address. We are moving forward with a plan to work with the provinces, take the feedback of industry, and importantly, engage Indigenous peoples to ensure that our kids and grandkids can see these species in Canada for generations to come.
Right. Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Department of National Defence accidentally revealed to the Public Accounts Committee the transfer of the aerospace engineering test establishment from Cold Lake to Ottawa. Despite claims to the contrary, neither the Member of Parliament, the MLA, or the Mayor of Cold Lake were briefed or consulted on the impact of this move, which will see the loss of many high-paying jobs. This is just the latest in this Liberal government's agenda to hurt Alberta every way it can. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Natural Defence, why this attack on Alberta jobs?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, nothing could be further from the truth. Cold Lake plays an important role in our NORAD missions, and we are increasing our investments to make sure it continues to play a very important role in this. Unlike the Conservatives, whose 65 jets that they're only one to purchase, Mr. Speaker, would not have not only met our commitments, we are investing into the armed forces with ADHS, plus an interim purchase, Mr. Speaker, that will also benefit, which will mean more increases. So I'd like to ask my colleague, Mr. Speaker, are they still against the interim purchases because it will bring jobs and more benefits to Cold Lake?
I remind the member for Battle River Crowfoot that, of course, after he asks the question, he's not supposed to keep talking. Right? The honourable member for Egmont.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, our government has been working hard and making significant progress to remove barriers for persons with disabilities and to build a truly inclusive and accessible Canada. Could the Minister of Public Service, Procurement and Accessibility please update this House on our government's progress?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Egmont for raising this very important issue.
Last month, with unanimous consent from this House, we passed Bill C-81, the most significant advancement in disability rights since the Charter. With C-81, we're creating a system to identify and remove barriers proactively so that all Canadians, regardless of their disability, can fully participate in society. Canada also recently acceded to the optional protocol for the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, further strengthening the rights of Canadians with disabilities. We are acting and we are working with the disability community, and we are going to build a truly inclusive and accessible Canada.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, it will go down in history as the time when the Liberals failed to defend supply management. They've made concessions, they've given up sovereignty, they've limited our exports, they sacrificed supply management because they were incapable of negotiating free trade with the Americans. The latest thing they've said is that farmers will have only until January 1st to apply for compensation. Will the government give them more time, or will it continue to demonstrate incompetence?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, but it's interesting to get a question like this from my honourable member whose previous government cut $700 million from the agricultural envelope. Mr. Speaker, they cut research, innovation, and everything else they could cut in the agricultural sector to try to balance the book. We have and will continue to defend the supply management system in this country. We have indicated quite clearly we will fully and fairly support our supply management farmers. Mr. Speaker, this government has and will continue to support the agricultural sector.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, high-speed internet access is an extremely important issue in my riding, particularly for the 34 homes along North Pointe du Jour Road in Lavaltrie. Like 2 million other Canadians without reliable internet connection, constituents Gilles Auclair and Sylvie Legault don't even have internet that meets minimum CRTC standards. The Liberals have to do more to bridge the digital divide in our region. So when are they going to invest the necessary mums once and for all to fix this problem to provide affordable access to the regions? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. Our government understands the importance of high-speed internet, and that is why we presented a program that will create a lot of opportunities in the regions, particularly rural regions, and we will continue to invest in the regions.
The divide, as we've done so with the Connect Innovate program, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre. Mr. Speaker, in the fall economic statement, our government announced an initiative which some are calling a new kind of capitalism. Social finance will help businesses and charities fill the wide open space between business and philanthropy. Organizations such as the Mars Discovery District and the McConnell Foundation say that with this fund, we will be able to generate economic growth while meeting urgent social challenges. On this last day here in the House, could the Minister of Family, Children and Social Development tell the House more about the Social Finance Fund? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank and congratulate the member for Edmonton Centre for his hard work on behalf of his community. He's right. A few days ago, we announced a historic investment of $750 million through the Social Finance Fund, which will create 100,000 new jobs and boost the economy to the tune of $2 billion in the next decade. This will help more families and boost the economy at the same time.
Mr. Speaker, Sean Rain murdered Constable David Wynn while out on bail because his extensive criminal history was not presented at the bail hearing. Now, due to a loophole with the Liberals' judicial referral hearing process, it couldn't be presented because it wouldn't be entered into CPIC, the National Police Database, in the first place. I wrote to the Minister of Justice about this issue. What action is the Minister taking to close this dangerous loophole?
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the question, and I have received the correspondence from my honourable colleague across the way, and I will take great care in reviewing that correspondence. The letter is speaking with respect to a bill that we introduced, Bill C-75, which is a bill that seeks to reform the criminal code and improve efficiencies and effectiveness. We are making changes to bail reform. We are looking at administration of justice offences to address delays with the underlying emphasis on public safety, ensuring we respect victims, and ensuring that we have an efficient and effective criminal justice system. I look forward to having further conversations with the honourable member.
The honourable member for Joliette. Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. Via Rail is taking $1 billion of our money to have some trains built in California that could be built in La Pocatière. The Liberals are literally just watching the train leave the station. Bombardier came back twice with competitive bids and the support of the Quebec government. Ottawa simply disregarded them. They must have a hate on for Bombardier and our workers. Who is it in this government who's so determined to have trains that are going to run in Quebec and that could be built in Quebec manufactured in California instead? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, I would answer by saying that the individuals who will be taking the train between Quebec City and Windsor will have better accessibility, better comfort, safer trains, and cleaner emissions. The maintenance of these new trains will be done by VIA at their facilities in Toronto and Montreal. I'd also like to add that we have also provided over $150 million for the renovation of part of the facilities in La Pocatière, Montreal, and Gaspé. Now, member for Joliette. Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So they'll be more comfortable than if the trains had been built in La Pocatière, whatever. Bombardier just won a contract in the U.S. this week, and 70% of the work will be done in the U.S. Bombardier has also just won a contract in China, and yes, the trains will be built in China. When Bombardier seals a deal with Germany, yep, you guessed it, the trains get made in Germany. How is it that only Ottawa is incapable of getting multinational corporations to put people to work here when it's our taxpayers footing the bill? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc perhaps doesn't understand how things work with our obligations under free trade deals. VIA is a Crown corporation. They put out a call for tenders. 3 companies bid. The successful bidder put in the best bid with the best available, the best price, and the best product. That's how it works. The criteria were very clearly set out ahead of time, and the decision was made. That's all there is to it. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Well, precisely, Mr. Speaker. The criteria were the problem. When you have a Crown corporation, you're supposed to take into account economic spin-offs. That's basic. Every time we see these new trains going past, we'll remember that for the member for Westmount, good jobs in the regions wasn't important enough. I can't believe there isn't a single solitary Quebec Liberal standing up for workers in La Pocatière. What's the point of electing MPs who take our tax money to pay for workers abroad? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, let's not forget that $16 million is going to La Pocatière for the Azur trains. And we also shouldn't forget that when we spend taxpayer money, that has to be done responsibly. That's a requirement on us. And in this case, Via Rail chose the product that was at the best price, with the best quality, and the best deliverables. Taxpayers expect us to spend their money responsibly.
Rose Hill is rising on a point of order, rising out of question period.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I write on a point of order on a matter of a minister misleading this House. When I raised the issue of the failed screening of Abdullahi Hashi Farah, the minister told the House that officials did not have information about Mr. Farah's criminal past prior to rendering decision. But a CBC article published this morning reported that Mr. Farah confessed to having an extensive criminal history prior. Given this, Mr. Speaker, I would like the minister to apologize to the House and to commit to a review of their failed screening processes.
does sound like debate. I don't see the minister rising. The honourable member for Carleton is rising on a point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order emanating from earlier in the week when I attempted to table the Liberal platform. And unfortunately, some members of the other side thought, if I could finish, Mr. Chair, that I was tabling another platform. It's their platform. So I asked for their unanimous consent to show they promised a balanced budget in 2019. Thank you.
Is there unanimous consent? No, there is no unanimous consent. Order. The honourable member for Nanaimo